You do not charge a battleship with a destroyer. This was the absolute law of naval warfare in World War II. Every naval officer understood the mathematics. A destroyer displaces 2,000 tons. A battleship displaces 35,000 tons. A destroyer carries 5-inch guns. A battleship carries 14-inch and 18-inch guns. A destroyer has thin plating, maybe half an inch of steel. A battleship has armor 16 inches thick. The comparison isn't just unfavorable, it's suicidal. A battleship can engage a destroyer at 25,000 yards, 12 miles. At that range, a battleship's shells arc high into the sky, plunge down through a destroyer's thin deck armor, and detonate inside the hull. The destroyer can't fight back. Its 5-inch guns have a maximum range of 18,000 yards. By the time a destroyer gets close enough to shoot, the battleship has already put a dozen shells into it. And even if, somehow, a destroyer closes the range, its 5-inch shells can't penetrate battleship armor. They bounce off. Spark. Do nothing. A 5-inch shell hitting 16-inch armor is like throwing a baseball at a bank vault. Physics doesn't care about courage. This wasn't theory. This was proven across every naval engagement in the war. At Guadalcanal, American destroyers engaged Japanese battleships at night, using darkness and confusion to launch torpedoes. Some torpedoes hit. Some battleships were damaged. But the destroyers that got too close? Obliterated. 14-inch shells don't wound destroyers. They erase them. One hit amidships, the destroyer breaks in half. One hit in the magazine, the ship explodes. Gone in seconds. The Japanese understood this math better than anyone. The Imperial Japanese Navy built the largest battleships in history. Yamato and Musashi, 72,000 tons fully loaded. 9 18-inch guns. Armor 26 inches thick on the main belt. These weren't ships, they were floating fortresses. Unsinkable, unstoppable, designed to dominate the Pacific, to sink American carriers, to win decisive surface engagements. American destroyers, small, fast, lightly armed, were supposed to screen carriers, launch torpedoes from a distance, make smoke, run away, survive. Never, ever engage a battleship in a gun duel. That's not tactics. That's suicide. Naval doctrine was explicit. Destroyers support the fleet. They don't fight capital ships alone. If you're a destroyer commander and you see a battleship, you report its position, launch torpedoes from maximum range, and withdraw under smoke. You do not close the range. You do not charge. You absolutely do not engage at point-blank range. Because point-blank range means the battleship can't miss. Every shell hits. Every hit kills. You're not fighting. You're dying. The Japanese knew this. American commanders knew this. Everyone knew this. On October 25th, 1944, off the coast of Samar in the Philippines, 37-year-old Cherokee Creek Navy commander named Ernest E. Evans, commanding the destroyer USS Johnston, proved that some rules exist only until someone has the audacity to break them. Ernest Evans is 37 years old in October 1944. He's from Pawnee, Oklahoma, Cherokee and Creek heritage. Joined the Navy in 1931 during the Depression. Worked his way up from enlisted to officer through the Naval Academy prep program. Graduated Annapolis in 1931. Spent 13 years in destroyers. He knows these ships, knows what they can do, knows their limits. But Evans doesn't think about limits. He thinks about fighting. October 27th, 1943. Seattle, Washington. U.S. Johnston's commissioning ceremony. Fletcher-class destroyer. Fresh from the shipyard. Brand new. 2,100 tons. 376 feet long. 5 5-inch guns. 10 torpedo tubes. 35 knots. Maximum speed. A good ship. A fighting ship. Evans addresses the crew. His commissioning speech. The crew expects the usual. Patriotic words, naval tradition, discipline and honor. Evans gives them something else. This is going to be a fighting ship. I intend to go in harm's way, and anyone who doesn't want to go along had better get off right now. He pauses, looks at the crew. 327 men. Young, mostly. Some veterans. Most green. The Johnston, Evans continues, will never retreat. We will fight. We will never back down. If we run into overwhelming odds, we will attack. The crew is silent. This isn't standard Navy talk. This is a promise, a commitment, a warning. Evans means it. Over the next year, Johnston proves it. The ship fights in the Marshall Islands, supports invasions, bombards Japanese positions, engages enemy aircraft, shoots down multiple planes, takes damage, gets repaired, goes back to fight. The crew learns that Commander Evans doesn't hesitate, doesn't retreat. When there's a fight, Johnston is in it. October 1944, the Philippines. General MacArthur's return. The American invasion of Leyte Island begins October the 20th. 700 ships, 450,000 troops. It's the largest operation in the Pacific to date. The Japanese know they can't lose the Philippines. If they do, they lose access to oil from the Dutch East Indies. No oil means no navy, no air force, no ability to fight. So Japan commits everything. The entire combined fleet. Every battleship, every carrier, every cruiser. They'll destroy the American invasion fleet, sink the carriers, strand MacArthur's army. It's called Show One Go, Victory Operation, all or nothing, Japan's last chance. The Battle of Leyte Gulf is actually 4 separate engagements across 3 days, October the 23rd through 26th, the largest naval battle in history, nearly 300 ships, over 200,000 men. The Americans have overwhelming superiority, but the Japanese have a plan. The plan: lure American carriers away, then smash through weak escort forces and destroy the invasion transports. And it works. October 25, 0600 hours, off Samar Island, northeast of Leyte. A small American task unit, Taffy 3, is providing air support for the invasion. 6 escort carriers, 3 destroyers, including Johnston, 4 destroyer escorts. These aren't frontline warships. Escort carriers are converted merchant hulls. Slow, lightly armed. The destroyers are there to screen against submarines and aircraft, not to fight surface ships. Taffy 3's mission: launch aircraft to support ground troops, provide anti-submarine patrol, stay safe. But at 0645, lookouts on the escort carriers spot pagoda masts on the horizon. Japanese warships, a lot of them. It's Admiral Kurita's center force, 4 battleships, including Yamato, the largest battleship ever built, 6 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, 11 destroyers, 23 Japanese warships, against Taffy 3's 13 ships. But it's worse than numbers. The Japanese ships are designed for surface combat. Heavy armor, big guns. Taffy 3's escort carriers have maybe 1 5-inch gun each. The destroyers, Johnston, Hoel, Herman, have 5-inch guns, against 14-inch and 18-inch battleship guns. The math is impossible. Taffy 3 should be annihilated in minutes. Commander Evans is on Johnston's bridge when the report comes in. Japanese battleships, 18 miles away, closing fast. The tactical situation is clear. Taffy 3 needs to run. The escort carriers turn south, make smoke, launch aircraft, try to escape. The destroyers are supposed to make smoke, screen the carriers, and withdraw. Evans looks at the Japanese fleet through binoculars. 4 battleships, 6 heavy cruisers. He can see Yamato. The massive pagoda mast, the enormous hull, 72,000 tons, 9 18-inch guns. Each shell weighs 3,200 pounds. One hit will sink Johnston. The smart move is obvious. Make smoke. Screen the carriers. Let the carriers escape. Johnston will probably die. But that's the mission. Screen and withdraw. Evans makes a different decision. He doesn't order smoke. He doesn't order withdrawal. He turns Johnston toward the Japanese fleet, toward the battleships, and he orders flank speed. 0700 hours, Johnston's engine room. The engineering officer gets the order from the bridge. All ahead flank. Give me everything. The engineering crew pushes the boilers. Johnston's 4 boilers generate 60,000 shaft horsepower. The destroyer surges forward. 30 knots, 32, 35. Maximum speed. The ship vibrates. The deck shakes. Water churns white at the stern. On the bridge, Evans watches the range close. 18,000 yards to the nearest Japanese cruiser. 17,000. 16,000. Johnston's crew is at battle stations. Gun crews ready. Torpedo crews ready. Damage control teams ready. No one asks why they're charging toward battleships. They know. This is what Commander Evans promised. This is Johnston. They attack. 15,000 yards. Still out of gun range for Johnston's 5-inch guns, but not out of range for the Japanese. The Japanese heavy cruiser Kumano opens fire. 14-inch guns. 8-gun salvo. The shells arc high. 30 seconds of flight time. Johnston's lookouts see the splashes. Short. The shells land 500 yards ahead. The Japanese are ranging. Evans keeps charging. 14,000 yards. 13,000. Kumano fires again. This time, the shells bracket Johnston. Some short, some long, straddling the target. The next salvo will hit. Evans orders evasive maneuvers. Johnston turns hard to port. The shells land where Johnston was 5 seconds ago. Close. Too close. Geysers of water. Shrapnel rattling against the hull. 12,000 yards. Still closing. The other American destroyers see what Johnston is doing. US Hoel and US Herman follow. 3 destroyers charging the Japanese fleet. Suicidal. Heroic. Insane. But it's working. The Japanese battleships and cruisers are turning their guns toward the destroyers. Away from the carriers. The destroyers are pulling the Japanese attention, buying time. 11,000 yards. Johnston enters gun range. Evans orders the forward guns to open fire. Mount 51 and Mount 52. 5-inch 38 caliber guns. High explosive shells. The guns fire. Recoil rocks the ship. Shells arc toward Kumano. 14 seconds flight time. The shells hit. Flashes. Smoke. But no penetration. The 5-inch shells can't pierce the cruiser's armor. They explode on impact. Damage the superstructure. Kill exposed crew. But they don't sink the ship. Evans doesn't care. He's not trying to sink Kumano with gunfire. He's trying to get close enough for torpedoes. 10,000 yards. The Japanese fleet is concentrating fire on Johnston. Kumano. The battleship Congo. The heavy cruiser Haguro. Dozens of large caliber guns, all firing at one destroyer. Shells fall around Johnston like rain. Some short, some long. Some hit. A 14-inch shell strikes the port side, penetrates the thin hull, explodes inside, kills 11 men, knocks out 1 engine room. Johnston's speed drops. 35 knots to 25 knots. Evans doesn't slow, doesn't turn away. He keeps charging. 9,000 yards, 8,000. Johnston is inside the Japanese formation now. Surrounded. Shells are hitting constantly. The bridge takes a hit. Shrapnel wounds Evans. His face, his hand, blood running down. He stays on his feet, keeps commanding. 7,000 yards. Close enough. Evans orders, fire torpedoes. Johnston carries 10 Mark 15 torpedoes in 2 quintuple mounts, 5 tubes on each side. The torpedoes are 24 feet long, 3,500 pounds each, carry 825 pounds of Torpex explosive, run at 46 knots, have a range of 6,000 yards. The torpedo officer targets Kumano, range 6,500 yards, bearing 320, speed 25 knots. Fire 1, Fire 2, Fire 3, Fire 4, Fire 5. The torpedoes leap from the tubes, hit the water, engines start. They run hot, straight, and normal. White wakes streak toward Kumano. Then the second mount, Fire 6, Fire 7, Fire 8, Fire 9, Fire 10. All 10 torpedoes in the water, running toward the Japanese cruiser at 46 knots. Johnston turns hard to starboard, breaking off the attack. Smoke generators activated, laying a smoke screen, trying to escape. Kumano's lookouts see the torpedo wakes. The cruiser tries to turn. Too slow. Too late. The torpedoes are closing at a combined 70 knots. 3 torpedoes hit. Massive underwater explosions. Water geysers 200 feet high. Kumano's bow is torn open. Flooding. The cruiser slows, turns away. Out of the fight. Later, intelligence confirms Kumano took massive damage. Bow completely destroyed. Dead in the water, had to be towed back to port. Never rejoined the battle. 1 destroyer, 10 torpedoes, 1 heavy cruiser, crippled. But Johnston is hurt. Bad. The ship has taken multiple hits. 1 engine room flooded. Speed reduced to 17 knots. Fire control radar destroyed. Gyro compass out. Bridge riddled with shrapnel. Multiple casualties. And the Japanese fleet is still coming. Evans assesses the damage. Johnston can still fight. Still has 4 5-inch guns operational. Still has ammunition. Still has a crew willing to fight. He doesn't withdraw. He orders Johnston back into the fight. 7:30 hours. Johnston has made smoke. The Japanese lost visual contact. Evans brings Johnston around, heading back toward the enemy, looking for targets. The Japanese fleet is in disarray. Taffy 3's desperate resistance, 3 destroyers and 4 destroyer escorts attacking battleships, has confused the Japanese. Admiral Kurita thinks he's facing fleet carriers and cruisers. The American ships are fighting too hard to be escort carriers. He's cautious, maneuvering, not pressing the attack. Johnston emerges from the smoke. A Japanese destroyer squadron spots her. 4 destroyers, closing. They open fire. 5-inch shells. Smaller than battleship shells, but still deadly. Johnston fires back. Gun duel. Destroyer versus destroyers. Johnston's gun crews are professionals. Trained. Experienced. They hit the leading Japanese destroyer. Multiple hits. The destroyer catches fire, falls back. But Johnston is taking hits too. More casualties. More damage. The ship is slowing. Listing. But still fighting. 0800 hours. A Japanese battleship, Congo, appears through the smoke. 14,000 yards away. Congo sees Johnston, the crippled American destroyer. Easy target. Congo opens fire with her 14-inch guns. The first salvo misses. Short. The second salvo straddles Johnston. The third salvo hits. 3 14-inch shells. Each weighs 1,500 pounds. High explosive. The first shell hits Johnston's stern, destroys the whole aft 5-inch gun mount, kills the entire gun crew. The second shell hits amidships, penetrates the engine room, explodes, kills the engine crew, ruptures the boilers, steam fills the compartment. Men die instantly. The third shell hits the forward superstructure, destroys another gun mount. Johnston's speed drops to 0, dead in the water. 3 of 5 guns destroyed. Engine rooms flooded. Fires everywhere. Evans is on the bridge, wounded, blood-soaked. His ship is dying. He knows it. The crew knows it. But Johnston's remaining guns keep firing. The forward gun, Mount 51, still operational. The crew loads. Aims. Fires. Loads. Aims. Fires. Keep shooting at the battleship. 5-inch shells against a battleship. It's futile. But they keep shooting. Japanese destroyers close in, circling, firing. Johnston fires back, hits one destroyer, then another. Tiny victories. Defiance. 08:45 hours. Evans gives the order. Abandon ship. The crew doesn't want to leave. Some refuse. Evans orders them off. Save yourselves. That's an order. Men go over the side, into the water. The ocean is burning with oil from damaged ships. Some men swim away, some stay close to the ship. Johnston is settling by the stern. Going down. Evans doesn't leave. He's last seen on the bridge. Wounded. Standing. Going down with his ship. 9-10 hours. USS Johnston rolls to port. The bow lifts. The stern goes under. The ship slides beneath the waves. 2 hours and 25 minutes after opening fire on the Japanese fleet. Gone. 186 men go down with the ship. 141 survivors in the water. If you find this kind of extraordinary naval courage and tactical audacity as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of impossible heroism deserve to be told, and by subscribing, you help us ensure they aren't forgotten. The survivors watch from the water. Their ship is gone. Their commander is gone. But they're alive, and the escort carriers behind them are still afloat, still launching aircraft, still in the fight. What the survivors don't know yet is what Johnston's charge accomplished. What Admiral Kurita didn't understand was that Johnston's suicidal attack had broken his tactical plan. Kurita's center force had one mission: smash through the escort carriers, reach the invasion beaches, destroy the American transports, strand MacArthur's army, turn the Battle of Leyte Gulf into a Japanese victory. But Kurita's plan required speed, surprise, overwhelming force. He needed to close the range quickly, sink the carriers before they could launch aircraft, then race to the invasion beaches. Johnston's charge delayed him. Kumano, one of Kurita's heavy cruisers, crippled by torpedoes. Out of the fight. Kurita's formation disrupted. His ships scattered, maneuvering to avoid torpedoes. His attention divided. And then Howell attacked. And Herman, and the destroyer escorts Samuel B. Roberts, Dennis, John C. Butler, Raymond. 7 small ships charging 23 Japanese warships, firing torpedoes, making smoke, creating chaos. Kurita thought he was fighting American cruisers. The destroyers were fighting too hard, too professionally to be escorts. He thought Taffy 3 was a major task force. He became cautious, maneuvered defensively, waited for his formation to reorganize. Meanwhile, Taffy 3's escort carriers launched every aircraft they had. Wildcats, Avengers, even unarmed trainers. Pilots made strafing runs on battleships, dropped bombs, torpedoes. Some pilots made dry runs, no weapons left, just to force the Japanese to maneuver. The combination worked. The destroyers bought time. The aircraft attacked. The carriers escaped south. At 09:20 hours, 10 minutes after Johnston sank, Kurita ordered his fleet to withdraw. He thought he'd engaged a major American task force, thought he'd sunk carriers. Actually, he'd sunk 1 escort carrier, Gambier Bay, and 3 escort destroyers. He believed American reinforcements were coming. He didn't know Taffy 3 was nearly out of ammunition, out of torpedoes. Desperate, Kurita turned north, withdrew. The invasion fleet was saved. MacArthur's army was safe. The Philippines campaign continued. The Battle of Samar ended. The Japanese lost 3 heavy cruisers sunk, multiple other ships damaged. Kumano never recovered, eventually sunk by submarine. Kurita's center force never threatened the invasion again. Taffy 3 lost Gambier Bay, Johnston, Howell, and Samuel B. Roberts. 1,400 men killed. But they'd stopped a fleet that should have annihilated them. Johnston's role was decisive. The first ship to attack. The ship that crippled Kumano. The ship that disrupted the Japanese formation. The ship that bought time. Naval historians study the Battle of Samar as one of history's greatest last stands. 7 lightly armed ships against 23 heavily armed warships. The Americans should have been destroyed in minutes. Instead, they fought for over 2 hours and won. Not through firepower, through audacity. Johnston demonstrated that naval combat isn't just mathematics, it's psychology. Kurita had overwhelming force, but he'd been hit by torpedoes from a destroyer that shouldn't have gotten close. He'd taken damage from ships that should have run away. He couldn't understand why American ships were attacking instead of fleeing. It didn't make sense. So he assumed he was missing something, assumed American reinforcements were near, assumed retreat was prudent. Johnston's charge created that assumption. Evans's audacity made Kurita question his intelligence, made him hesitate, made him withdraw. 1 destroyer, 327 men, changed the course of the battle. The US Navy recognized this. Commander Ernest E. Evans was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Citation. For conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty as commanding officer of the USS Johnston in action against major units of the enemy Japanese fleet during the Battle of Samar, October 25, 1944. Outgunned and outmaneuvered by the enemy's heavy cruisers and battleships, Commander Evans deployed his ship in attack without regard to the fearful odds. Evans became the first Native American in U.S. Navy history to receive the Medal of Honor. Cherokee Creek heritage, from Pawnee, Oklahoma, joined during the Depression, worked his way from enlisted to command, gave his life charging battleships with a destroyer. His commissioning speech proved prophetic. This is going to be a fighting ship. We will attack. Johnston attacked, against impossible odds, and won. Other navies studied Samar. The conclusion: never underestimate a determined opponent. Numbers matter, firepower matters, but will matters more. Johnston's crew knew they couldn't win a gunfight with battleships. They fought anyway. That psychological impact, the shock of being attacked by ships that should flee, created opportunities. Modern naval doctrine incorporates this lesson. Small ships can threaten large ships through unexpected aggression. Suicide boats, missile boats, submarines, modern destroyers carry anti-ship missiles that can sink carriers. The concept: you don't have to be bigger, you have to be willing to close the range and fight. Johnston proved that in 1944, the hard way. Ernest Evans went down with Johnston. His body was never recovered. He was 37 years old. His wife, Evelyn, received his Medal of Honor at a ceremony in Washington. She told reporters her husband always said he'd rather die fighting than live in defeat. He got his wish. 141 Johnston survivors were rescued by American ships over the next 2 days. Some spent 50 hours in the water. Sharks, exposure, burns from the oil fires. Many didn't make it. Others were picked up, barely alive. The survivors never forgot Commander Evans. In interviews decades later, they described him as fearless, inspiring, a man who kept his word. He said Johnston would attack. Johnston attacked. He said they'd never retreat. They never did. He said he'd go in harm's way. He went straight at battleships. One survivor, Robert Billy, told historians, the skipper was as tough as nails, but he cared about us. He trained us hard, pushed us. But when the fight came, we trusted him. We'd have followed him into hell. Another survivor said, we knew we were going to die that day, but we also knew we were going to fight. The skipper wouldn't have it any other way. The wreck of USS Johnston wasn't found until 2021, 77 years after the battle. A deep-sea exploration team located the hull in 21,000 feet of water, the deepest shipwreck ever discovered. The ship rests upright on the seafloor, still defiant, still at her action station. When the wreck was found, surviving crew members, now in their 90s, expressed relief. Their ship had been found. Their shipmate's final resting place was known. The Navy conducted a memorial service. Honor guards, flags, recognition. Johnston's name lives on. A new destroyer, USS Johnston DDG 175, is under construction, scheduled to commission in 2028. The ship will carry Evans' legacy. This is going to be a fighting ship. The motto will be the same. The Navy hasn't forgotten. At the Naval Academy, midshipmen study the Battle of Samar. They learn about Evans, about Johnston, about charging battleships with a destroyer, about impossible odds, about courage. The lesson: sometimes tactics don't matter. Sometimes firepower doesn't matter. Sometimes all that matters is the will to fight. Evans' Medal of Honor citation hangs in the U.S. Navy Museum. Visitors read it, learn the story, understand what one destroyer did against an entire fleet. Some visitors are veterans. They understand. Some are civilians. They're learning for the first time that courage can overcome mathematics. The Cherokee Nation honors Evans as a hero, one of their own, a warrior who lived the warrior tradition. Never retreat, never surrender, fight to the last. Evans embodied that. His heritage informed his courage. His people remember. In Pawnee, Oklahoma, where Evans was born, there's a memorial. Small, simple, a plaque. His name, his rank, his ship, Medal of Honor, of recipient. The town remembers the local boy who became a naval legend. Johnston's survivors held reunions for decades. Every year, meeting, sharing stories, remembering shipmates who didn't make it. As they aged, the reunions got smaller. Men died. The group dwindled. The last reunion was 2015. 3 survivors attended. The youngest was 91 years old. They're all gone now. The last Johnston survivor died in 2020. The living memory has faded, but the written record remains. The after-action reports, the survivor testimonies, the Navy's investigation, the Japanese records. Historians can reconstruct the battle, understand the tactics, appreciate the courage, and the lesson endures. You do not charge a battleship with a destroyer, except when you do. Except when retreat isn't an option. Except when your ship is needed to buy time. Except when your commander promised the ship would attack. Except when your crew trusts you enough to follow you into certain death. Johnston charged. Against Kumano, against Congo, against the entire Japanese fleet. A 2,000-ton destroyer against 72,000-ton battleships. The math said Johnston would die in minutes. Johnston fought for over 2 hours, crippled a cruiser, disrupted a fleet, saved an invasion. The math was wrong. The math didn't account for Ernest Evans, didn't account for Johnston's crew, didn't account for the fact that courage multiplies force, that determination creates opportunities, that audacity defeats caution. The Japanese had bigger ships, more guns, more armor. They should have won. They withdrew, because one destroyer charged instead of running, because one commander meant what he said, because one crew trusted him enough to attack the impossible. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing these forgotten stories from the archives, the ships that fought against impossible odds, the commanders who defied doctrine, the crews who gave everything. If you want to join us on this mission, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served in the Navy or in destroyers. Thank you for ensuring that Commander Ernest E. Evans and the 327 men of USS Johnston do not disappear into silence. They charged battleships with a destroyer. They knew it was suicide. They attacked anyway. They saved an invasion fleet. They proved courage matters more than caliber. They deserve to be remembered.